Wow, Dylan, that is so beautiful. Isn't that beautiful? I think music is the way we summons heaven. It really is, because in our praise and our prayers and our song to God, it is so palatable to experience the presence of God. So thank you for that, Dylan.
What's it like for you to to play those originals that way?
Yeah.
Well, for one, I've been playing a lot more piano as of late, and I've been studying a lot of different music. And one thing that I kind of have realized is that I don't really have a whole lot of dynamic in all of my originals, and so I've tried to start incorporating that to not force it, because forcing it is, to me, it's pretty obvious, but to try and to try and I really can't explain it. It's hard to, because it's kind of like a feeling of just that, this song is going this way. Where should I emphasize? Where should I start a new section? And kind of the very beginning of this song, I was just still trying to kind of figure out what I wanted to play.
Wow.
And then that just kind of came to mind. I was like, okay, now I have something. Let's go with that. And then upon that idea, I try every now and then I'll try to have lyrics in. With this one, it was "Wish You Were Here Now," and
Yeah.
that part, "Wish You Were Here Now," and just trying to add those just light inflections, or just kind of the subtle sort of piano to the loud. It's all about just feeling. It has nothing to do with. If anything, it's just. I've been playing piano. Come this November, 25 years.
Really?
Yeah, and it's. I don't even know how many songs I've played, and actually understanding, music for what it is on face value, is. Like with a lot of things, it's the language in and of itself.
It really is. It's its own poetry. And that was exquisite, Dylan. Thank you so much.
I love the Broadway influence on your playing.
Oh,
Everything's
absolutely.
It's like that crescendo love ballad
Yes.
thing. It's awesome.
Today's message is absolutely astonishing for us, even as we were going over what does it mean to have a covenant relationship versus a contract relationship, right? A covenant. And as I looked up the word here with our Charles Fillmore's definition of a covenant, is a solemn agreement or compact between two or more parties. A covenant shall stand fast with him. Psalms 89:28. A covenant, a new covenant, is that Jesus established a new and higher consciousness for man and taught and practiced the truth of the inner kingdom. The inner kingdom. This teaching is known as the new covenant in Hebrews 12:24. The new covenant is to be written in the hearts of each person. We were hearing a beautiful pastor, Tim Keller, talk about the understanding of what it meant when God told Abraham, I will make a covenant with you. And to do that, going back to Genesis 15, back in the day when a servant was to be made part of the Lord's in this community, one of the things they had to do was make a sacrifice. So they had to sacrifice an animal and lay its parts opposite of each other. And the servant would then walk through the carcasses of the body of the sacrifice in making a covenant to be a part of the Lord's community. He swore or he promised in his heart that if he did not uphold or adhere to what it meant to be part with the Lord's family, that may he be scattered and torn and ripped apart as the sacrifice that was made. Now, how unusual that we would go back in the Old Testament just to take a look at what did it mean back then when God told Abraham, as Abraham was praying from his inner kingdom, God, what does it mean that you're going to make a covenant with me? Let me read with you just a part from James 15. Because God had promised him that he would be buried at a good old age. And it would be in the 4th generation. You talk about having patience. In the 4th generation, your descendants will come back here. For the sin of the Amorites has not yet reached its full measure. So there was a lot of chaos that was going on even way back when, prior to Jesus even coming, and prior to having our intercessor. Our new covenant with Jesus was a covenant that God made with his people and made with Abraham. When the sun had set and darkness had fallen, prior to this, okay, God asked Abraham to have a sacrifice and to cut the animal on both sides. So Abraham, in his thinking, because this was the practice of the day, it wasn't unusual for God to ask Abraham to have the sacrificial animal and to place it on both sides back then. Abraham, in his mind, was thinking that he was going to be the one to walk through the animal, to be a part of God's family, to be a part of this covenant that God was making with Abraham. So Abraham, full intending, he was going to walk through the sacrifice that he had made to become one with God in a covenant. So just prior to this, Abraham had laid down, right? When the sun had set and the darkness had fallen, Abraham awoke to, there was a smoking fire pot with a blazing torch. Now just imagine, God appears like he did with Moses in the burning bush. He appears to Abraham as a smoking, blazing torch. So I'm imagining a tornado of fire. A tornado of fire comes down, appeared, and passed between the pieces. Not Abraham. God did. God came down in a blazing torch for Abraham as a servant did with his master. God came down and passed through the pieces. On that day, the Lord made a covenant with Abraham and said, "To your descendants I give this land." That was one of the original covenants. Now, even in the new covenant that Jesus had established in a higher consciousness, what did Jesus do to establish his covenant with us? His pieces were broken. Jesus came down to teach of the inner kingdom, just as God did with Abraham, to teach of the inner kingdom. Jesus came down, and everybody thought he was going to be the one to rule and cause everyone else to be buckled to their knees in obedience. But Jesus came down as God came down to Abraham, and he passed through. He became the sacrificial lamb. He became the sacrifice for us.
Well, actually, and it's actually for God. You know, God's in an impossible situation. He promises us unconditional love. But then he says, I am 100% intolerant of sin. So under no circumstances can I turn my back and say, you know what, my unconditional love for you I'm just going to say, okay, you're a sinner, I forgive you. It's not what God says. He says, I am 100% unforgiving of this. I will never accept it. It's just, that's the standard, right? So he's in this impossible situation. So when he passes through for Abraham, when he passes through the aisle of all the torn pieces of animal, which represents, I'm walking through this saying that if I don't adhere to this relationship and I'm loyal and binding to this relationship, I be cut to pieces, right?
That was the practice back in the day.
That was the practice. So God's in this situation where he's like, all right, I can't be an unconditionally loving and forgiving God, which is what Jesus came to be, right? To forgive and show this whole new reality that the New Testament really didn't have. But how can God do this? So the way he does it, wrap your mind around this, because I didn't get this until I listened to this thing 3 or 4 times. What he does is he says, since I cannot have wrath upon you and be forgiving, and since I cannot tolerate that sin is happening, I'm going to take your sin onto my body in the form of Jesus, and I'm going to go through the exercise of being ripped to pieces, to rip that sin to pieces for you. Now, I want you to get this. This is not like, okay, Jesus died for our sins. This is God entered into a relationship with us, which is so incredibly binding and holy. And he says to us, not you have to enter a covenant relationship with me. He says, I enter in a covenant relationship, not with earth, with each individual child on the planet. He's in a covenant relationship with you where he loves you unconditionally, cannot tolerate whatever you do to break the laws of love. And so therefore is in this impossible situation where the only way he can be in love and continue to be in an unconditional loving relationship with us is for he himself to say, just as we, like Jerry and I were talking about before he came here, it's just like, if somebody came in and they were going to shoot Tamara, would I jump in front of her? How many of you would jump in front of a loved one to take the bullet for them? Almost everyone, right? It's like if you really love the person, you just do. You just say, you know what, I'd rather be shot than her, than to step back and let her get shot, and then I got to live with, wow, I didn't even try to protect. I mean, you couldn't live with yourself. That's not love. So we all have this quality. But God actually takes it on and says, you know what? This is the only way I can show my love for you and not be apathetic, lukewarm, stand off to the side. Because if I truly love you, and I'm not going to tolerate this under any circumstances, then I have to do something to get rid of it. And then does it for us. And I never really got the depth of the compassion, of the unconditional love of Jesus' sacrifice before I really saw that this is like, wow, we've put God in an impossible situation. And how much, I look at that and I go, wow. And that's still going on today, right? That we just choose the non-loving thing to do, the easy thing, the simple thing, the non-courageously loving thing. And we put ourselves in a position where it's like, you can feel like I always say, I love to act in a way that I can feel God's pleasure. But when we act in a way that doesn't, so we can't feel God's pleasure, we're throwing him right back into the same impossible, it's like, all right, he's going to have to come do it again. You know, we talk about the second coming of Christ as if it's going to be, well, this time he's going to, well, wait a minute. Maybe the second coming is another crucifixion if we don't get this, start, getting things more loving around here. I don't know.
Well, and here from Charles Fillmore, the new covenant, it's established in a new and higher consciousness, and it's practiced through the truth of the inner kingdom. The teaching is known as the new covenant in Hebrews. The new covenant is to be written in the heart of each person. And just even in our quiet time today, together here, in just imagining, Jesus already paid the price, right? So it's an unusual topic for unity here today. Yeah, I really get that it's not about wanting to brush over the scripture or anything that was so beautifully displayed as an example for us. It's about honoring it as being such a significant, pivotal moment in time for us to get the gravity of how much love is available for us, how much love in the sight of so much oppression is available and truly is a lighted path for our faith of a mustard seed that could say, I choose you. And it's interesting because even in that quiet time today, I just imagine that Jesus was showing me a contract or showing me a covenant to be a part, because there's a part of him that asks us, will you marry me? Will you be in a covenant relationship with me? Will you be committed with your faith even when the days that you don't feel it? Will you be committed and in a relationship with me when it is at its highest height of joy and ecstasy? Will you choose me as I've chosen you through it all? When it's not roses and daisies and skipping through a field, right? Do you choose me when you're walking through the shadow of death? Do you choose me then? Because I do you. I'm with you always. And I made a covenant. And I've signed this paper, Tamara. I've signed this paper, Cheryl. I've signed this paper, Jerry, and Ed, and Ray, and Dylan, and everyone that is here. I've signed this with you in my blood. This is my blood. Do you sign with a pen? We do not have to sacrifice our body and our lives. Jesus already did it for us. He already did the hard part. Because even when you get into a marriage relationship, it's scary. Do you commit like I commit? Are you going to be there in sickness and in health?
Well, and that's how we started looking. We were looking for things about, what relationship and how to make it deeper. Because when you're feeling selfish in your marriage, or you're feeling hateful or hated in your marriage, and you're like, you know what, I want to experience a deeper love, right? Like the kind of love that God has for us. So Tamara and I we've been really looking at, what does Christian marriage look like? And our relationship is 90% good all the time and everything. We struggle a little when we get into conflict, and we were looking for, okay, what is God really saying about how to really love your spouse? I've been really studying that and trying, all right, how do I love my spouse? What does it mean as Jesus loved the church? And I've been looking at this, and it's like, and another thing that Jerry and I were discussing, it's like, do you believe that there are many paths to God? And I believe, if you've ever been to a real, like a Buddhist temple or, some of the other places where you really see people adhering to their faith and their love for God in their own way, I've been there and I felt that spirit, and I'm like, wow, it's so palatable here.
It's as palatable as in a Pentecostal church.
As palatable easily.
With the song and the celebration and the praise and God come down now, or your spirit. I mean, there is something really palatable in whatever form that is for you, that has your heart open to this covenant relationship.
But if you're skipping, but here's the thing. If I'm a Christian and I say, all right, I'm going to follow this path of Christianity to God, as far as I can go, and I go down, I hit a wall. Guess what hits a wall? Does my soul hit a wall? Nope. My ego hits a wall. And then I say, well, there's this other path. Let me go do Buddhism for a little while. And then I kind of, see if I can progress that way. And then I hit another wall, like, all right, well, let me go try this other path. And you're jumping around. It's like you got to go through that wall. And the only way through that wall is to say, no other options, no other paths. I'm not going left or right here. I got to go through this because it's a filter that will leave pieces. Like to get through that little hole, you got to leave your ego behind. Right? And that's where I'm looking at this and I'm going, all right, what does a Christian marriage look like? It's a covenant relationship. It's a relationship of sacrifice. Not sacrificing things that are good for me in order to... It's sacrificing what's not good for me that I can't even see unless somebody else helps point it out to me. Because you're my friends. You're not going to... You don't want that discomfort. You don't want to have to parent me. We're friends. We want to have a good time together, right? So God gets me in a relationship with my wife who can only take so much of my ego before she's got to say, I am at my wit's end with this. And then I've hit a wall. And now I'm either going to do what is throughout the Bible. Am I going to say, well, this is who I am. You need to love me unconditionally? Or am I going to say, you know what? I want a deeper level of trust than my childhood and my bullies and my parents prepared me for, which was very shallow trust. So I've got to take a look at how deeply am I willing to trust? Where are my hang-ups? Where's my triggers from the past? And can I do an incredibly courageous thing with Tamara in a covenant relationship? It's the only container that this can work in, right? And I can't even imagine. How could you enter into a covenant relationship with more than one person? Forget it. It's the level of complexity of being, with two people upset with you at different points of the day, forget it. You'd commit suicide. So it's like with one person that loves me unconditionally, has promised that, and I go through and I hit a wall, I learn to sacrifice. I learn to say, you know what? What's more important to me, love or being right? Love or keeping my pieces together? Instead of I got this piece that I use to defend myself, that I use because it got me through childhood, that I use to keep people at a distance and push people away, and I'm no longer willing to do that. So this is where I take her and me through that wall together. But got to leave pieces of myself.
And you know what's so beautiful? Lupe and I were listening to a beautiful yoga couple that was talking about the seasons and the cycles of life. So there is the summer, there's the fall, there's the winter, and the spring, and then the summer. And even when you look at the menstruation cycle of like a woman, so there's a flow and there's a natural time for not always being in summer. And I think when men have that testosterone of, steady as she goes, it's like, you were okay yesterday, why are you not today? There's the opportunity of understanding the flow between the masculine and the feminine, and the opportunity for growth because it doesn't stay the same. Because some of the biggest complaints were, why aren't you the same when I married you? Why aren't you always in summer? Why aren't you always turned on? Why aren't you always, giddy or playful? Well, there's a cycle to life too. There's a fall and there's a winter. And in those times, it's an opportunity for your character, all of our characters, to deepen and develop. Same thing with our covenant with God. It's not always going to be summer. Yet, what so often happens, if you've got the mentality that, look, I married this and it's got to always stay like this, and if it doesn't, I'm going to go looking for, okay, you're in summer? Okay, I'll be with you. Okay, you're in summer, I'll be with you. You're in summer, I'll be with you. That's a philanthropist, right? I mean, that's somebody who's just constantly cheating on not wanting to have a real commitment, a real covenant that says, I'm with you whether you have cancer or whether you are in your healthiest glory. I love you. And there's something deep and biting and promising that is like none other. None other. So in our seasons with God, are we willing to stay steadfast with our faith? I'm with you even though I don't see the glory. I'm with you even though I don't see, the land that's promised me in our original covenant, God, right? I will trust you because you are trustworthy. Are we willing to sign our covenant in that direction so that we may live out that covenant, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven, in our closest relationships, the intimate ones that see it all. There's nothing to hide in that.
And it's funny because there's this thing that unreasonable question. Do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? Happy meaning loving. And if you look at it, it's like, well, wait a minute. Do I want to be right or do I want to be loving? We have friends. They're actually just acquaintances. They live in Miami. And this guy's wife keeps cheating on him. And I've seen him with her. She's frustrated from time to time. And he loves her. He loves her at his expense. He's loving her beyond her. If you asked anyone, should he stay with it? No. It's not the right thing to do to condone that behavior by turning your back to it and just loving her like that. That's not right. That he should just keep demeaning himself like that, right? But he really loves her. And if you think about why do we even come here? Why do we do this? It's because we want love. Not right love. We want unreasonable love. We want to be unreasonably loving. I don't want to love Tamara because she earned it. I want to love her because I have mastered how to love someone. And Tamara is so easy to love. I mean, of the people I've met, she's really, there's a beautiful, soft innocence about her. At the same time, when her defenses go up and she can, get into it. But it's like it's easy to see that innocent, beautiful woman. And Tamara is more loyal than anyone I've met. So am I. I'm faithful and loyal to each other in a way, all right, we have a container. But the point is that if you think about why are you even here? You're not here to do the right thing. You're here because you want this love. We have this weird, isn't it amazing? Nobody can live without love. Infants will die without it. You grow up as people, you don't want to be alone. Whether it's, I turn to my spouse or I turn to my family or my kids or my friends, nobody can live without love. It's like air. And so you get to a point, I think, where you're like, all right, I can make life work. I'm in my 50s or whatever. I know if I do this, I can get that, and I can get by with this and do all this. But there's still this burning desire. Like, even though I don't learn as well as I did when I was 20, I still want to learn how to love better. And I'm willing to take courses on it and go to classes about it. And I've told Tamara, I said, there's a lot of things I could work on in life at this point in my life, but I just want to get this one thing really good, is love and really mastering that in marriage.
And what's so beautiful is that we get to do that first with our Heavenly Father. He's already done the hard part, right? It's really about the resurrection as well. That there's a gravity of sacrifice, yes, but for so much greater glory to be and live in the resurrection of what is available. That it doesn't have to be arduous or super difficult when trust is the foundation. When trust is like, you know what, God's got this. And I trust that. And and when Jesus says, love your wife like Jesus loved the church. Wow. How cool is that? The church is where his children come to worship and to be in communion with him. Love like that. And it's always available. And there's such a beautiful image that I had for me with this last week. We'll kind of show it on here first. I put it up on Unity's Facebook page. But if you guys can see this too, it's so beautiful, is that no matter where you're at, drowning underneath or whatever, God's hand is there to reach down with his covenant with us.
So for those of you that are sitting there, you can't see, but it's an arm that's reaching down and you can tell it's Jesus' arm reaching down to pull someone up that's below water level, that's got their, just the last fingers sticking up out of the water as they're drowning. So it's just, and we're happy to show it to you after the service. For those of you online, you got to see it.
But in the new covenant with Jesus is in a higher consciousness, taught and practiced through the truth of the inner kingdom. So you think about that. That's all Abraham had, was the inner kingdom. That's what he went by and listened to. Now that we have a covenant with Jesus who came and did the ultimate sacrifice for us, we have a new covenant. Where is your covenant at with Jesus today? Are you honoring our part, your part? And it's so available, just at the asking. It's beautiful. So in the new covenant, is to be written in the heart of each person. That's where it is. That's the covenant, written on the heart. Imagine inside of your heart, Jesus already signed his part. He's asking you to sign yours. What if in your mind's eye you just reached over and you signed your name and you said, I'm in. I'm in this covenant with you. Come hell or high water, right?
And the setup for life is when you're young, you make mistakes, and your parents love you unconditionally, hopefully, and then you make more mistakes and you get bullied, the outside world starts to bully you like, oh my gosh, everybody doesn't treat me like my parents. And then you meet people that are competitive and trying to conquer you, and then you get out of college or high school or whatever, and you're like in a competitive world, and then you make mistakes. And you learn the hard way. But then you start making mistakes, right? And after 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, you've made so many mistakes that the truckload of whatever you want to, they just call it sin in the Bible. But it's like the things that I feel guilty about, the things that I wish I could do over again, the things that think about it. Every year you add more to that. And if you got even a half good memory, you don't forget all the stuff from the past. And I think what happened for me is just like last summer for me somehow in the stillness of the summer of COVID, when we're all home and we're all sitting there. And I'm really just trying to, introspect and take a look at, wow, the mistakes I've made. And I'd gone through, a couple of years ago, I did the 12 steps. And if you haven't done the 12 steps, it's awesome, because part of it is that you make a list of all the people you hurt, and then you try to make amends. You call them up and you say, what do I need to do to fix this? And it's incredibly healing, and it's not what you think it's going to be like, but it's amazing. And so that was like in an effort to get rid of the dump truck full of mistakes I've made. And then I'm realizing, well, I'm making more mistakes because I'm getting older and I'm more forgetful and less competent, less remembering and conscientious. And and I got so disillusioned with my inability to get better. I'm getting worse at I'm getting better at letting people down as I get older. And I realized, when I realized this is no longer I'm not able to just continue to get better and better and better and at having people see me as getting better. This is not going to happen. And I've leveled off. And then I was like going, oh no. And I got pretty depressed. And then something happened, and I just realized, you know what, whatever I'm thinking, whatever's going on in my brain, whatever all this introspection and realization of what's going on, I don't like my thinking. And so I decided I was going to turn it over to a higher power. Lord Jesus, come into my heart. You're my Savior. Come into my heart. Fill my mind with your thoughts. Let me see through God's eyes. I don't like seeing through my eyes. It's polluted with all the mistakes I've made. And something started to happen. And a lightness came. And it was like I wasn't seeing me through the eyes of all the mistakes I'd made and all the mistakes I'm going to make, which are getting, more per week than in the past. I started to see that I'm loved in a way that Jesus loved us, right? And I started to ask God to come in and fill my heart. And I started listening to Scripture and reading the Bible and doing these things. And all of a sudden, it was like this truckload was lifted from me of all the mistakes I've made. And I was sitting here going, without even thinking about it, this is exactly the gift that Christ gave us on the cross, wasn't it? I'm going to take all that off of you so you can see yourself as lovable again. So you can know that you're worth it, that someone would take all that off you. And it was an amazing revelation to connect the two. I was in tears. And it was awakening in a beautiful way, stepping out of what's right and into that world of what's loving, which is the world of Christ and God, right? Instead of the world that's human, which is, you made this mistake, you deserve this, pay the price. And there's a world where you don't have to pay a price, where you're loving again and lovable. So that's just been, for me, something that's happening. And you can tell Tamara and I were talking through it and sharing our realizations through it. I don't have necessarily the conclusion of beautiful, brilliant news or even a request to say, please do this for yourself. I'm just like so refreshed at reading and listening to the Bible every day, which I was away from for years. I mean, we would read self-help and different things and watch ministers, but just to sit down one-on-one with the Bible and read it and open it to a place where it was serendipitous and to hear it or to listen to it on, daily has been so refreshing. Mm-hmm. And I think Tamara would say has healed her, because it's not about me trying to get kudos from her. It's about me seeing myself in God's eyes and then coming to her with the love that I've been filled with. Huge difference. One is, let me come to you to get love. The other one is, let me come to you to give love.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And something that's so beautiful in meeting that kind of a threshold, understanding that, God really is our source. There is a humility that's available. And when you're not looking to someone to fill for that importance, you know that God is already stamped that approval on you. And when that is true for us, there's nothing to prove. There's only an opportunity to be. So thank you, guys. With that, let's go ahead and open it up with what's come up for you today.
So Ray, are you there? And we'll go to Tracy and Judy. Oh, all right.
Hello.
Hey, Ray.
Hey,
How are you?
Ray. Oh,
Yep,
yeah,
you're
he is
muted, Ray.
muted.
Gotta unmute.
Unmute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
There you go.
Perfect.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello. The audio was beautiful today. Thank you.
Ah,
I lost the video feed a few minutes ago. I'm not sure what the deal is there, but I had it for most of the service and then I lost it.
okay.
Okay.
Anyway, I wanted to share a few thoughts about covenant with me, since you got me thinking about it.
Mm.
To me, the covenant, well, between who and who, it speaks to me of the relationship between my human self and my divine self.
Mm-hmm.
That, if I'm a spiritual being having a human experience, then I'm both human and divine. And the covenant is something that bridges the gap between the two, it's a new understanding, a new consciousness that
Mm-hmm.
shows the relationship, the close relationship between my human self and my divine self. And if I can bridge that gap, the more I bridge that gap, the better my life is in experience. That's the way it is. The more I realize that I am divine, the better my life is.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that's what the covenant is all about to me, is bridging that gap and becoming fully human and fully divine at the same time. So those are my
Beautiful.
thoughts.
Beautiful, Ray. Thank you so much. I always love your input. That's beautiful.
Okay.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray.
Okay.
Dylan, did you want to
Yeah.
step in?
What came up for you today? Because that's good. Because Ray
Dang it, I had two thoughts and I'm missing one.
likes.
You want to come back? Or did
Oh,
you?
no, I
Okay,
remember
good.
now. So when it comes to the many paths thought, and I mean, unity was the first one really that I've ever heard, one God, many paths. And I didn't really understand that. But then I started over time. So let's do a little bit of basic math here. Think of the number of religious and spiritual texts throughout history. Just throughout history, even ones that are destroyed or, maybe are no longer used. Now, thinking of all that, think of the number of times each one of them has been read, even more than once by the same person. And now think of the number of unique people throughout history that have read those texts. So divide the number of times those texts have been read, the whole number including all texts, divide that by the number of people. That number is massive.
Yeah.
And now consider that number and how many people actually follow what is being said. Now I'm going to blow your mind. How many people in throughout history have never read one of those texts? Not a one. I would imagine seldom few. How different is that person's life that has not read one text versus someone who, let's hypothetically say, or theoretically at least, read all of them? I would rather be the person that has never read one, because then, in my eyes at least, I would be more like myself than what I read in those books. And that's kind of a realization that I really only came to the past maybe couple of years, is that, I've read the Bible, I've read Bhagavad Gita, I've read Urantia, I've read almost all of Fillmore's books, but to what end? Yes, sure, I can learn. I can take those lessons and I can, maybe share them with people that, might be able to listen. Am I really going to follow those? No. I am just going to be me, and whatever I see as, my truth is what I'm going to live out. Not, oh, the Bible says this and that, therefore this must be the way. I'm not like that. I mean, people that are like that, props to you. That's not me. And then the other thing is that when you're talking about love, I thought of a really great example. There's a boy and girl, and they grow up together. The boy becomes a prince, the girl becomes a princess. The boy becomes a king, the girl becomes the queen. Throughout their life, they've both loved each other endlessly to no end. It never stops. And then all of a sudden, because the boy became a king, he now has a sense of power. He cheats on his wife, beats her, mistreats her, throws crap at her, throws her in a jail cell, denounces her as queen, marries this other woman, who now becomes queen, gets his former wife out of jail, becomes a servant, and then sentences her to death. And then asks, at the hour of her death, "Are there any last words you would like to say? You may not be the man that I fell in love with, but I still love you nonetheless."
Oh,
Wild.
Wow. Wow.
Mm.
There's a sermon.
Yeah, really.
Mm-hmm. Wow. All right.
Judy.
Jerry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Jerry. What came up for you?
Jerry, okay.
Well, you know, talking about a covenant, it made me think that I had really, the thought had never come, but, you know, someone that joins the military is making a covenant with God and country.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And tomorrow's Flag Day, by the way. And I never thought of the flag as being divisive. But there's a New York congresswoman who saw American flags on pickups and Trump stickers on those pickups. And she decided that the American flag was a symbol of white supremacy. And the people were saying, "This is my country." Well, this is my country. I don't exclude anybody else, but this is my country. Everybody should feel that way. So, you know, I guess, Greg, in our conversations, you probably realize the 3 words you hear from me most often are, "I don't understand." And I'll tell you, I just do not understand people like that congresswoman.
And thank God, Jerry, that we don't live in a other country where you're not even allowed to have that freedom, right? I mean, because that's what you're afraid of, because you stand in the freedom, which is very cool. So thank you for that.
So Edward. Oh, wait, Edward first. Oh, no. Okay.
Not today. Cheryl? Nope,
Yeah, go ahead.
it's all you.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I first want to express how the selection that Dylan played was just so beautiful, and then to go into the message today was so beautiful and powerful. It just made such a beautiful flow,
Yeah.
and I appreciated that. I really did. And I just appreciate the feeling that I have when I leave service in unity, that I feel uplifted. And I appreciate that feeling and being able to do that.
Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you so much. Yeah.
One more here, and then we'll go online. Thank you, Cheryl.
When you were talking about sacrificing an animal, it made me think of this guy who had a near-death experience, and he was met with an angel, and he was a hunter, and the angel told him that to stop killing animals, that one of our purpose in life is to take care of animals because they can't take care of themselves. And another person who had a near-death was taken into a room, and they were preparing a feast in heaven, and everything on the table was just fruit and vegetables. There was no meat. So I'm starting to think that maybe we shouldn't be eating meat, because I know when I eat it, I get kind of sick to my stomach. So I think God's telling me, you know, stop doing this. So it just, and when you said that God told them to sacrifice, I remember Sylvia Brown, her spirit guide told her, well, they were talking about to read, you know, the Bible, believe what you want and leave the rest. Because I think the God that I know is a very loving God, And I can't picture him telling to sacrifice any animal. That just doesn't resonate with me.
Pretty strange, isn't it?
It
Yeah.
just, but, so, anyway,
Yeah, I can't
And-
imagine it either, hardly.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's
and somebody had
symbolic.
mentioned
But
that when you kill an animal, the trauma, the negative emotion, the energy stays in that meat, and that you're eating that. When you eat that meat, you're eating that trauma and negative energy it's going through. I don't know.
That's why I'm so grateful for the new covenant, right? That Jesus said with his ultimate sacrifice, it is finished. It's finished. That there would be no more need for that to atone for sin. Ever. Ever.
well, and I just when topics like this come up, I was vegan for quite a while and vegetarian for quite a while, and occasionally I'll eat, something that's like lately I was feeling some stress like in my body, and so I've been eating some salmon and stuff. But if people claim, there's the thing, if God didn't mean for people to eat cows, why did he make them out of meat? The insinuation being that they should. But I just tell people, you need to go prepare a hamburger for yourself from scratch and see how many people could actually face to face with an animal and their life. Because the one time I did it in my life, it was like I threw my slingshot down and I was like, that's it, I'm done with this. I'm like, there was something that went through my soul. But it's so individual. Like Dylan's talking about all these millions of paths. If there's a hint here in the fact that each one of us looks completely different. And different skin colors, different hair colors, different eye colors, different sizes and shapes, different blood types. And I've heard people say that there are some people that if they don't eat meat, they become anemic right away because of a particular blood type. And there's this whole hint that God's like, you can have your perspective just as I've created you to be completely unique. There's nothing wrong with you having absolutely unique beliefs. One of the things we have noticed here at Unity is that if we leave our judgments outside the door, we all do a whole bunch better off, so we definitely tell people that. And yet at the same time, what that means is allowing this to be a space where there's freedom of speech. Come in and share your ideas, and let us be thoughtful about them. Not preaching and not rejecting, but just thoughtful. Like,
Well-
wow, what's your perspective?
Well, like sheep, I think God put sheep so we can get the wool, make sweaters. But why do we have to kill and eat them? I don't think that was the purpose to put them here.
Yeah, I guess in the winter it was necessary in some places, and we just got in the habit, probably. But but the beauty is that you have a choice.
And cows give you milk, so why do we have to kill them and eat them?
Oh yeah, and there's beautiful. Like I've watched YouTube videos of cows that are they're some of the most loving, sensitive, compassionate, affectionate creatures.
Oh,
People
yeah.
adopt them as animals. That's right. But again, it's the beauty is that you get to choose, to get to see those. You get to say, I want to do something for animals. I told Tamara, I said, if we ever didn't have anything that we had to make money or do anything, and it all fell apart and everything, I think we just open an animal sanctuary because it's what feeds our soul. Is to have, and you've mentioned doing the same thing.
Yeah.
It's not for everybody. Some people they don't want an animal in the house. They don't want an animal outside the house. They just
Well,
want it
see,
on their plate.
They're not seeing the animal that has a soul. They're seeing it as just an animal.
And that's their right.
And every animal has a soul.
Yeah.
And today I had some great news, animal rescue, because animal control and the police department do nothing to help these animals. I have an abusive neighbor that's abusing and hitting and neglecting animals. Anyway, online I posted and she helped me. The previous owner of this huge Afghan that my neighbor is neglecting and abusing.
You mentioned that in the past, yeah.
He contacted her, and he's out of town. He's coming Tuesday. She gave him my number, and he's going to come and get the animal. I'm like, yay, thank God.
There you go.
It's going to be saved. Because when I went to go feed it, every morning I climb on my step stool and feed it because he barely feeds it, and it's not eating anymore. It wouldn't take, I give him a can of food. He ate it one day. Now he's not eating anything. I gave him some hot dogs. He ate 4 of them. Now he won't even eat them. So
Right,
I
and-
think the animal's depressed.
And good for you.
So
Yeah.
that was good news today.
Cool. Thank you. And so online, Judy, you want to share?
Oh, good morning,
Sure.
everyone.
Good
Good
morning.
morning.
When I took the history of the Bible from Frank Judici there at Unity Village, he
Mhm.
taught an overview of the whole Old Testament and talked about it like it was our evolution of consciousness. And it's not a straight road, and everyone's on their own path. And so I think that helps to think about it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The other people are on their path, but they are evolving.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Well,
one of the things
mhm.
Jim Kelly said was that, if you take somebody that starts at a 0 and they come from a horrible family with drug addiction and all kinds of stuff, and they start at a 0 and they really, get so much value out of their spiritual teaching, and a year later they're at a 1.5. And you take somebody that's in the middle of the road, like, I don't know, he says most people are probably at a 3 relative to, true loving compassion, and they work it, and they end up at a 3.5. Who's actually done more, right? The one that's 3.5 or the one that's 1.5? So, everybody's like, you don't apply the laws of high school to people in first grade or kindergarten, and who's to even say what's what? So thank you, Judy. It's a beautiful reminder. We're all on the path.
Mhm.
Right. Mhm.
Thank you.
Tracine, are you
Hey,
there?
Tracy.
And if not, okay. Bert, I think she's
Okay.
probably driving. Hey, Dad.
Hey, Dad.
Happy birthday, Cheryl.
Happy birthday to Cheryl. Yay. Yes. Happy birthday. Yes, Dad. Love you. So true.
Love you.
So true. Thank you. Love you. Okay. Let's go on to our divine love. Right? Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God. Take us away, Dylan. Yeah. Yeah.
You want me to do it?
Whatever you want.
I have your answer.
Okay.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Cheryl. Happy birthday to you.
Woo! Yay! Our prayer of protection is that the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. Wherever God is, all is well. Thank you guys for being a part of Unity Center of Bakersfield today. And you guys have an amazing week, and we'll see you next Sunday.